Hey, ladies, welcome to another episode of the Revitalized Womanhood podcast. And I'm here with Cherie Hoeger. And I did have to have a little coaching to pronounce all of that just to make sure I gave her the appropriate amount of respect to at least just say her name, right? Right? This is so like what we were just talking about. I've been out of the country. So that is a big deal. That is hard to when you meet people and they've got very different names or very hard to pronounce names, especially for us from Utah. We have a little bit of a, so I really appreciate you making sure I got that right. And welcome. I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm thrilled to be here.
And this is why. Okay. So the deeper I dove into your story, if I could build an avatar for my absolutely exact perfect guest for my audience or representation for my community, it's you.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
What an honor. That's the kindest thing I think anyone has said to me.
It's honestly, so I've been doing this for 4 years. This podcast has been really an important part of what I do because it's let me connect with so many incredible women, right? And I believe everybody, not just the ultra financially successful, but I mean, the first person when my mentor said, "Who do you want to have on?" And I was like, my mom, right? That's womanhood. That is womanhood. It's so different than saying I have a podcast about business or I have a podcast about whatever, very specific things, food or true crimes or whatever it is, but this is about womanhood and that is all encompassing. That's not just mom. That's not just wife. That's not just chef. That's not just CEO. That is what's underneath it all. And you are absolutely my avatar. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's some high praise to live to. I'm excited to be able to share hopefully something of value with your audience today.
It will bang it out for sure. It'll be good. But would you please just introduce yourself? I just recorded a quite long introduction for my listeners so that they really could get in there and know you. But I love to have my guests introduce themselves still.
Yeah. So my name's Cherie, like you said, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company called Saalt, and we make reusable, sustainable period care items like menstrual cups and discs and period underwear, all the fun things that can sometimes be seen fringe. So I live in a fun category because I get to talk about periods all day. I get to talk about all the taboo things like bladder leaks, right? Perimenopause, and I get to bring solutions that work and solutions that are better for our bodies and the environment. And it is an incredible journey. And it's an incredible and meaningful business that I've been able to create. And really, well, I was going to get into my story of like how I started, but I'll just say I'm also a mom of 6. And I've had to learn how to really balance my life. I don't believe in the word work-life balance, but instead I adopt the phrase work-life integration. So a lot of my journey, and especially for your audience, not only is about building a company that combines for-profit and philanthropy and puts it together and is able to bring so much meaning and so much purpose in my life and for those that we serve and our customers, but also I've been able to be very intentional about my life because I've had to be running a company and having 6 kids. So I'm excited to dive into that topic and tell you some of the tips and tricks that I've learned along the way.
I love that. That is absolutely what my audience is here for. Like, obviously, we want to know about your amazing products, but we can go and find them on the shelves at Target.
Yeah.
So easily to find. We can go and do that in another space. But right now, I want to dive into what was going on in your life before Saalt existed. Who were you before that? What seasons were you in and trying to integrate things into that was before Saalt?
Yeah, so that's such a great question because I've been on such a journey with Saalt that it's kind of fun to look back and say, what were my goals at that time and who was I? And I have changed so much, and business will do that for you. If you're looking for the best and the most stretching journey for just your personal progress, your personal development, be an entrepreneur because it'll require so much of you. And I've been able to stretch. But really before Saalt, grew up in Utah, grew up Christian and also in a very loving home with 6 children. And my mom was from Argentina. And my dad is American, so, half and half. And I love that upbringing because I felt like I had a lot of multiculturalism. I was able to live in Argentina for a time. I was able to live in Brazil for a time and really saw kind of the best of both worlds, of both culture and the incredible opportunities and resources that we have as U.S. citizens. They say that immigrants make the best patriots, and it is certainly true for my family. My family was very excited to get their citizenship. I saw my mother's citizenship and also my grandmother's and my great-grandmother's citizenship ceremonies. And we truly have an appreciation for the opportunities that we get in this incredible country. And you really can follow the American dream. So I felt like I had a really great grounding upbringing to understand just how grateful we should be to be living in this modern time and this time that has been the best time in the history of the world for women specifically to live in. And we have so much progress to make. Like I still look and there's so many uphill battles still for women, but it's still better than it's ever been. So I was able to
Absolutely.
grow up with that perspective. And I was an English major. I grew up with and studied technical writing. So I was a technical writer, and I did this on the side as I raised our children. So my husband and I have 6 children. We've been married for 20 years. And so we were able to get married and, have children, live in a good community here in Idaho. I was able to get my degree and graduate, and then also have this side business where I was always writing either for companies or writing textbooks on health and fitness. And so I felt very fulfilled in my life. And there was a point, I would say, about 10 years into our marriage, where I looked at the goals that I had, and it was, okay, I want, to find a great man. I want to have a great marriage. I want to graduate, I want to, I was a gymnast and dancer. So I had some goals around gymnastics and dance that I was able to accomplish, which was fun. And, I want to live in a good community and I want to have a big family. And when I got to that point, I realized I hit all those goals. I made it, which is an incredible place to be and say, wow, I was able to accomplish that. We were able to create this life. Oh, and the last one was that we wanted to be financially independent. So we wanted to be entrepreneurs and we were able to do that. And of course, it's a hard journey and you have, several stepping stone businesses till you get to your next business. But I had never imagined this life that I have currently with this business. All I knew is I wanted to make an impact in the world. And I wanted to continue growing, and I liked business. I always had FOMO whenever my husband was working in our real estate businesses and our other e-commerce businesses, and I always helped on the side, but I was more of, I would say, a backseat, right? We're a supportive role. And then when we started this business, and I can get into that story, but it really required me to go to the forefront more, and I didn't realize how incredible it would be until we began.
And this is so powerful because everything you're saying, I'm like, okay, wait, I've been writing it down. I'm like, okay, I can go back to that. Oh, okay, I can go back to that because it is such an important thing for me in my community. They hear it. My audience hears it so many times that you have to write down your goals, right? You have to write down your goals. You have to be very specific about those goals because saying I want to be a good mom is completely relative for you versus me. What does that look like? A good wife. I want to have a good husband. I want to have a fulfilling career. What does that mean? What does all that mean? So mine isn't even like the goal. It's the 5 questions that come after you write down the goal that define what specificity that actually is. That's the intentional part of what we do here. So I love that you were doing that, looking back and saying, hey, I've made it. And at that point, were you able to say, not just, hey, I've made it, what's next? Because that's actually a funny reel I'm about to post. Like my toxic trait is saying, what's your big dream? And then I say, cool. And then after that, like, what's your big dreams? And you made it. Were you able to sit in that long enough? And were you able to bring that with you into the next season instead of just jumping to, okay, now what's next? Does that make sense? Because there has to be some grounding in that, like celebration and wow, look what I did. And I think because of what you got to watch your mother and your grandmother and these other people come through, work for, I think that you get a better perspective than a lot of us that are just handed these things or just expect these things.
Yeah, I came from a family where my mother was the first in her family to go to college. My father was the first in his family to go to college. And of course, it was just expected of us, and we all went to college. So yes, you're handed, some of those things that you could take for granted, but really are an accomplishment in themselves. But yes, sat with that, 10-year journey where I was able to accomplish those goals I had and then say, okay, what is next? And I really didn't have a great picture. I love your podcast because it is all about being deliberate. And I got there, and I'd love to share my story and how I got there. But at that time, I knew I wanted to make an impact in the world. I knew that I wanted to continue to be the best, mother, wife, friend, sister that I could be, and that I wanted to just create life and love in this world and leave it better than I found it. So I wanted to continue that, but I was well in that direction. And I had
Right.
some other goals that someday I was thinking I would want to write a book, and I would want to do some sort of philanthropy, and wanted to be involved in a nonprofit some way, but I didn't know what that looked like. But it was enough of shaping in my mind that then when opportunity comes around, then you're able to bring that into your periphery, right? You don't have all the
There it
answers,
is.
but you're like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I want those things, right? And I knew I wanted to travel internationally with my family. So very similar to you, definitely not as robust, but for me it was, I want to do at least one international trip a year, which a lot of people
Right.
think is nuts with 6 kids. And
Yes.
I think is very much a part of who we are. And we are a traveling family. And I love and appreciate food and culture and dance and all the things about different culture. And I just wanted to experience that. And so, we've been able to maintain one international trip a year and one domestic trip a year with our family because we brought that into our life. So it's a lot of that life shaping. And I have a very specific journey that I can share that got me there to where I am now. But I do think that that beginning vision and keeping that at the forefront was so important in finally, being able to achieve where I've gotten to today.
Right. I'm going to roll you right into the origin of Saalt and how that started with that wonderful conversation. But I just want my audience to sit in this for a minute. What she's explaining is you don't have to have the answers all at once. When women come into my community and I ask them to create a vision for themselves, they're casting a vision, right? It's kind of the base, the foundation of you setting your goals. It gives you something to look for. It's not like I have to write this concrete cement idea that I have to follow step by step. It's nothing like that. What she's saying here beautifully is that I know I want to have this. Like, imagine it just being bubbles that you drop on your page that you're writing down. Like, I want to have this. I want to have time. I want to have freedom. I want to have whatever philanthropy. I want to have my husband involved or not. I want to have my kids involved or not. Whatever that looks like, if you start just writing these things down, I always go back to, are you familiar with Practical Magic at all? Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman.
Yes.
So the part where she's casting the spell for this man that doesn't exist, and she's putting in one blue eye, one green. Where's the
Yeah.
star's his favorite symbol? Whatever. It's just all of these. She didn't know this person, just like you didn't know that Saalt would exist. You didn't even know that that was a direction you were going for, but you had all of these little ingredients that, yes, like you're saying, now are on your brain. You're looking, and what's that? There's a scientific term for the law of magnetism when you're actually seeing the yellow car everywhere, right? And it's because you had that already on the forefront of your thinking that when it presents itself, you go, oh, there it is. And so please tell
Exactly.
us about that wonderful conversation you were having with your aunt, correct? In Venezuela?
That's right. Yes. So it's my husband's aunt in Venezuela. I was, discussing with her, and she was telling me how difficult it was to get anything on grocery store shelves. She said, I can't get, baby food and formula for, children. It's difficult to find any food, let alone personal care items like pads and tampons. And she said she hadn't seen a pad or tampon in years. And I had 5 daughters at the time. Our little son came at the caboose. He came later. And I thought, what would I do in this situation? And really, this dependence that we have on this disposable supply chain started keeping me up at night, where I thought, my goodness, what would I do to replace any of these things? I'm a very independent person, and I wanted to find these solutions. And so I started looking into reusable options. And I was introduced to period cups and discs and period underwear for the first time and thought, where have these been my whole life? How come I'm only seeing these and knowing they exist as a woman in my 30s? I'm now in my 40s, but I was 30s at the time. And so I tried, a cup for the first time and was blown away. I thought, why haven't I tried this before? I didn't even know it existed. I had all the same questions people have, like, it's so big. Does it fit in there? It's like, well, it's not as big as a baby's head. So yes, it's going to fit, How does it work? Like all those questions, I studied them up. I learned it. And when I actually tried the product, I thought, okay, not only is this better for my body and better for the environment, but I forgot I was on my period because it was so comfortable. And I wanted these incredible products to go out to the world. And there weren't a lot of good US made products at the time or brands that I could really fully trust. And I said, maybe that's something I can create. So that's when I approached my husband. It was like near midnight. We'd been kind of looking for our next business. We were serial entrepreneurs. We'd done a lot of real estate. We'd flipped houses. I was writing textbooks, with my father-in-law. We created a different e-commerce business, importing things from Brazil and selling them online. So, we had some, basis and so forth. But I said, I really want to get these products out to more friends and family, and I can't find any that I trust. What if we created our own? And, at first my husband's like, oh, what is a menstrual cup? But to his credit, we really saw this opportunity of macro trends that were happening in the clean personal care space. It reached clean beauty, clean cleaning products, hadn't reached clean period care yet. And so we felt like, okay, there's these macro movements happening and there's an opportunity to take this to a mainstream consumer. So we had a vision for looking at this fringe product and saying, we want to create it to be beautiful. We wanted to put it in a package that, opens like a high-end lipstick and something that would be Target worthy. So we launched in 2018. And, I'll say 8 years later, we have had some incredible successes. We now have our 3 product lines, which are our cups and our discs and our period underwear. And we've been able to launch into mass retail, like all Target stores nationwide. And we're the #1 best-selling cup there and have retained that spot. We're also the best-selling cup on Amazon and have retained that spot, and also our disc. And so we're on our website, we're on Amazon. We are also in mass retailers, so omnichannel. And we've had some incredible partnerships and so many successes in this journey. Yet, despite all of that success, whenever I give, a keynote speech or I'm able to be on a panel, the #1 thing that people ask me afterward, and they come and approach me, it's not about business. It's not about how I did it. When it comes to entrepreneurship, they say, how did you build an 8-figure company while being a mom of 6? That's the #1 thing they ask me. It's like, how do you do it? Are you superwoman? Like, is there hope for me, essentially? And that's really the journey that I would say I'm most proud of.
Right. So I'm going to take you down this then, because there is so much to this, and I too have women asking similar questions. Not, I haven't built the 8-figure business, but as far as our traveling or going on girls' trips or the freedom to just have my own life and define what that looks like alongside my husband, alongside my kids, right? I'm not leading, I'm not falling behind. We are all alongside each other living this life, realizing that we all need to have our space to have specific dreams and interests, okay? So that is a hard thing when you deal with people who have not done the work yet to be confident in that space. Say your husband doesn't want you to work, because really the thing under the thing with that I find is an insecurity in, well, if I let her do what she's going to do, what if one day she decides she doesn't need me? That's an insecurity of his, the thing under the thing. And it's like, well, guess what? That's not a her problem. That's a you problem. And that's why changing the narrative for everybody coming up behind us, all the women, like you said, we're getting there, but we are not quite there. But being able to have podcasts like this and conversations like this where we change the narrative of, some women are single doing it and they do it. They figure it out. Some women have a husband that doesn't support them, so they don't do it. Or maybe they don't have the confidence in themselves because they don't have a good community supporting them. So It is a very, very profound and powerful question, and every single person is different. And when we all realize that, then you can start saying, okay, what makes me different and unique, and how can I do this versus she did it? How can I copy her, how she did it? So what do you land on when they ask you these things?
I love this question because I think a lot of that I didn't have answers for at the beginning. I mean, even when I put out there that, maybe I should be CEO of this company because, when we first started, we actually had co-founders and and my husband and I, so there were four of us. And I was just this kind of deep-seated realization that I think I should lead this company. It wasn't ego. It wasn't something that I was like aspiring to. I didn't have an MBA, I didn't have any experience in leadership, but I felt like, I probably am the right one to actually be at the forefront of this company for its needs. I have the passion and I've created it. And we had other co-founders that were operators that we later, purchased out a year into the business and so forth. But it was a lot of just like finding my place and then, working alongside of my husband. And we had worked together. So we'd learned a lot of things. But this journey has still taken us to the next level of respect for each other's strengths and weaknesses and the ability to work together. I want to make sure I got your question. Tell me one more time.
Well, I'm just going to lead you through it. Well, just like when women say, "How did you do this? How did you manage 6 kids, 6 schedules, a husband, the home life?" Because I'll tell you what, I just got back from a women's event in Scottsdale this weekend, and honestly, my husband never called me. He had all 4 kids, one of which is an 18-month-old breastfed baby. Okay, so he had all the kids and he really didn't. I was almost like texting him like, why aren't you calling me? Or why aren't you texting me? And that was not the case back when we were first married. I talk about the story, how I was a supporting character in his story, in his life. And it took him being humbled by the recession, by losing everything, to actually say, oh, hey, maybe I'm not God's gift. Maybe I'm not the greatest thing on the planet and I do make mistakes. Maybe I should look to this woman. And I'm not saying we had a bad marriage. We didn't at all. I was absolutely happy. I was doing exactly what I thought I wanted to do. But then when your husband turns to you and says, "What do you want out of life?" You're 7 months pregnant with our first baby. We've lost everything we have. We're $640,000 in debt. We were homeless for a brief time. We had just gotten through watching all of our cars, all of our toys, everything be literally physically drug out of our driveways, right? It comes to a point where it's almost comical. You're going, okay, this is life right now. But he said to me, "What do you want out of life?" And I'm like, huh? A house would be nice, a car, to have babies. That was, and no shade to my mom. She is the OG and the most incredible woman. But as far as me being able to dream bigger, I mean, this was before Instagram was really a thing, right? Now we can see the abundance of people doing all the things. And so it's like, oh, well, that doesn't seem so scary, or, oh, that doesn't seem so weird. But it's a lot harder when you haven't seen a lot of the things and you're going. So he says, "Well, what if we travel the world full time?" And I'm like, okay, I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, sure, let's give that a try. So what is your advice? Okay, I'll make this more specific. What is your advice to women listening who have had this idea that they think they want to do something bigger or more or create more abundance for themselves? But how did you give yourself permission to figure it out as you went? Like maybe they're having a little bit of this stuck in imposter syndrome. What do I know? Why would I be the one that could do this? Like, how did you get through each of those moments of push back on yourself, right? And nope, this is bigger than me, or What? How did you give yourself permission to work through those moments?
Ooh, I have two great pieces of advice. So, number one, my favorite quote from Oprah is the biggest adventure you can take is to live the life of your dreams. So, first, dream big. Know what's in your periphery. You don't have to have it perfectly figured out, but like we talked about, like decide. Like when your husband turned to you and said, "What do you want?" Go through that exercise. Figure out who do I want to be? What do I want to be known for? What does my best self look like? And I can tell you how I got to that journey too. And what do I truly want? What brings me fulfillment in life? So have those answers and have them in your periphery, right? The second thing is I love that you shared your story about losing it all. And I've been listening to your podcast. So, I know that story, but look at those setbacks like opportunities to rebuild. And I'll tell you where the setback came for us. So, and it was really more, I would say, of kind of a emotional realization because it wasn't a setback. It was actually success. And success, in a way, can be a setback and can reveal holes and blind spots, right? So for me, it was when I was returning on a flight from Minneapolis to Boise. I had just negotiated like the deal of our life, which was an exclusivity agreement with all Target stores to launch our products in all Target stores nationwide in the next year. So we launched in 2018 and we were able to launch in 2019, which is unheard of, right? In our second year of business,
Yeah.
we were able to have this great success. And it was deliberate. We went to a conference that was like speed dating for buyers and retailers, and we were able to pitch to the target buyer, and she was looking for a cup. And, it was a combination of both luck as far as the timing went, and also being very deliberate and intentional about our brand and what we wanted to create and what we wanted to provide for, the US consumer. And it just was able to fit perfectly for that time frame to have it launched. And because of that, we've been able to retain that best-selling spot. So I was coming back from the high of, having negotiated that contract and realizing, wow, this is going to put our business on the map. This is going to, catapult our sales. It's going to be incredible. And it was also so daunting. We just put 2 years into creating this business, and anyone who's been an entrepreneur knows the hustle. I mean, we're like writing copy, like 11 pages of website copy, writing all the instructions for each of our product, creating the packaging, creating the product itself, which requires some financial investment because these, cups and discs, they require a silicone mold, or it's a mold that's etched in steel to create this silicone mold, and each of those molds costs $25K. And they cost a lot more, but at the time it was $25K, so it was just $50K just to have our first 2 sizes. And if you didn't get it right, well, it was etched in steel. You just had to scrap it and start again. So you really had to have every point right. And so it'd been this long journey, right, where we're just putting everything in, not getting paid at the time, and just trusting that this business might work. And so having this new target business and having this target buyer validate our product, validate our packaging, and say, I want you on Target shelves was an incredible moment as an entrepreneur to be validated by a third party. And I should have been just on cloud nine coming back from that plane ride. But really, I was scared. I was overwhelmed. And I realized that I was already burning out because here I was, a mom of 5 children at the time. I had toddlers. I had put, so much hustle and grit and late nights and just creating this product, getting it off the ground, getting our website off the ground, getting all the product descriptions, all the things. And I was like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this and not lose myself? And I'd already felt like I was losing myself. It required so many changes in how we lived our day to day and how I was working with my husband and so forth. And I looked at it erroneously, and naively probably as a period of time. If I just put these 2 years in and get it off the ground, then, after that, hopefully it'll be like smooth sailing. It won't require so much of my time. Well, no, that was wrong, right? When you lead a company, it requires full time. And I was a full-time mom and a full-time CEO. How was I going to make this happen? And I remember I'd gone through this period of burnout for a couple months where I was just like, I don't really know. I don't know the answers to this. I was reading all the tips and tricks around work-life balance and how do I make this balanced and how do I find this elusive work-life balance? And I remember I went to an expo in San Francisco, and it was called In Good Company. And it was just, other amazing female entrepreneurs who were answering questions. And of course, the work-life balance question came up, and everybody in their seats just leaned forward. Like everyone's going through this, all these creators, content creators, influencers, and business owners. And I remember that there was the founder of Jenny's Ice Cream, Jenny herself, who's out of Chicago. And they asked her the question, like, how do you balance work and life? What do you do? And she goes, oh, work-life balance is a myth, just nonchalantly.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, what? Like, she might as well have just said the earth was flat, we never landed on the moon, whatever it was. Like, everyone was just, oh my goodness. Okay. And she started to explain how really it's about work-life integration. And it's not about this balance, because you can't have 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of work, 8 hours of personal life. Like, it never balances out that perfectly, because you have kids who are sick, you have travel days, right? You've got, all sorts of school functions. And if you look at it in that perfectly balanced state, then you are always going to feel like a failure, because it's never going to work. And it's just going to lead to mom guilt. And I just remember going, oh my goodness, I've been doing this wrong. Like, okay, so what's the answer? And she talked about, it's like spinning plates, those circus performers you see where you're spinning one plate, you're giving a little bit more focus to this one, then you're spinning another plate, you're giving a little bit more focus to this one. And it's really just about your energy. Business and life is an energy game. And then she said something that stopped me in my tracks. She said, there's so much mom guilt out there where we feel like we're not being present enough with our kids if we're moms and we're running a business or we have a career. And I look at my kids and say, you know what? They are the luckiest kids in the world. And I remember that was such a perspective shift, because I had thought about, what was I modeling for my kids? Most of the day I was going around moping and feeling bad and having this guilt of like, oh my gosh, I'm not spending so much time with them because this business is requiring so much time. Like, why would they be entrepreneurs if they saw a mom who was modeling that behavior? They would say, that's not for me. Okay,
Right.
I'm not going to do this. Where we really want to show our kids what successful entrepreneurship or having a career and motherhood looks like. And I wasn't doing that. And so that was an aha moment for me. And she didn't give me all the answers, but I knew, okay, I have to get intentional about my life or I'm going to lose myself. And I need to do this now. And I recognized the urgency. So I started reading a lot of books, not rocket science. I just like reading a lot of books, trying to get wisdom, and found some incredible books. Essentialism by Greg McKeown, How to Become Your Best Self Now.
That's what we're reading this month.
Oh, it is my hands down
monthly topic.
Favorite book.
Yeah,
I love it.
Good.
The last one is from Dr. Benjamin Hardy, Miracle Morning, and so many incredible books. And I really, as a technical writer, you take something that's really ambiguous and, difficult to understand, and you're really good at synthesizing it into like how-to steps. And so that is a practice that I had and, had developed from my schooling. And I realized, okay, that's what I have to do with my life. I have to, look at this elusive work-life balance, which is now work-life integration. And I have to figure out, how do I actually make this apply to my life? And what I realized over time through, all of this deliberate research and effort was it comes down to your habits. And I know that you're such a big proponent of this, but it is your daily habits and what you do daily. So the exercise that I did was I first said, what do I want to be? And who do I want to be? What does my best self look like? Well, I want to be an incredible, wife, mother, and friend. I want to be a great leader. I am a stalwart Christian. So I want to bring people to Jesus Christ, and I want to be able to share light and love with the world. And I want to be fit. I want to be healthy. I want to be strong. I want to be strong for my family and be able to have longevity. And then I have my passions that I love. I was a ballroom dancer. I love to dance, and I was a gymnast, and I still love doing flips and tricks. I practiced a martial art called capoeira from Brazil, and I taught it for 10 years. And it was such a fun part of my life. And so I love being very active, and then I love international travel. So just like bringing all these things in, right? And saying, this is who I want to be. Well, that book, Essentialism, one of my favorite books, because it challenges you to then look at the vital few, is what he calls it. What are the vital few things that bring you the most fulfillment in life? And for me, it came down to 5 things. And he says you have to have trade-offs. You can't do everything. So you have to choose those few things that bring you the most fulfillment, that are things that are actually going to matter to you, right? Not to anyone else. And I love that you're a big proponent. What does your ideal life look like? What matters to you? And I had to look at that and say, one thing that doesn't matter to me is TV. It really doesn't. I kind of felt the pressure, I would say, outside pressure, that I felt from friends
to be into it,
to want to be into different shows, right? Different movies and so forth. I'm like, I just don't really care about that. I that's not something I need in my life. That's something I can cut out. What else can I cut out? Well, I had all these magazines around. I really don't need that in my life. Social media to an extent and so forth. And I identified things I could cut out so that I could make room for the things that are most important. And for me, those 5 things were first, my relationship with God, my character. Next was my family relationships, my marriage, and then my family, extended family, my immediate family, my health. And then the last thing was my impact in the world. Those were it. And so then the challenge that I took the principles from that book, Essentialism, and put it together with Miracle Morning. Trying to remember the author. Oh,
I know. We read it too. So everybody knows Miracle Morning. Everybody knows
Hal
Miracle
Elrod.
Morning.
That's his name. Hal Elrod. And it's okay. How do I take those 5 things and then put them into a daily powerhouse morning routine? And for me, it was a 90-minute routine. That's about as much time as I could get as a mom of 6, 90 minutes. Okay, so what can I do every day to hit those 5 things? Well, it's starting with meditation. It started with prayer in the morning, with my scripture study, to hit that pillar of God and my character. And then second, I put my health second. It's a workout. And during the workout, I don't listen to music. I listen to inspiring podcasts. A lot of people love to be pumped up by music. But for me, I wanted to fill my cup with, good motivational podcasts that kept me, on my toes and kept me at my best level. And then third, my family. So being very present for my kids before they went to school, being able to be there for breakfast times, give them loves and hugs. Like, it's little things. It's not big things, but this is a daily habit, right? So many people go straight to their phones when they wake up. They're scrolling or they go straight to their emails. These are reactive things. These are not proactive things that are investing in your life and creating your life. And so I have all of those things and then my impact on the world. And that is really, I would decide on the 2 most important things I would do for my personal life and for my business that day. And this is before I touched anything reactive. And for my personal life, it might be reaching out to a friend, reaching out to somebody who just needed my help that day. Who could I connect with? Or it might be, how can I help a child progress? And then for my business, well, maybe it's doing that hard thing that I really don't want to do. Eat the frogs first, right? Like, do the difficult things that are moving your business forward. So I have maintained that morning routine for the past 8 years because I discovered it right back in 2019. And it has been one of the most powerful things in my life to get me steadily progressing forward, because guess what? I hit who my best self is every day. And along with that, I have affirmations where, those affirmations that I say every day as part of that morning routine talks about not, who I want to be, but who I am, who I'm becoming. And when you say it in terms of, I am this, this is who I am, I'm an eloquent and engaging speaker, I am healthy and strong and fit, and I'm living the best years of my marriage. Because so many people think, at the end of the life, they start talking old, my health declines, my marriage declines. Why? Who made those rules?
Yeah.
Why do any of those have to decline? You can live the best years of your marriage in your 40s. You can live the best years of your health in your 40s. And then I have also, aside from the morning routine and my big 5, I do have those other deliberate goals that I fit into my day. I have a full habit tracker because I'm nerdy and I like spreadsheets, and it has 50 habits. And a lot of people will be overwhelmed by that, but I'm a type A personality, and to me, I'm competitive and I love it. If I can check those off, and then I give myself a rating at the end to see how I do. So it's a lot of habits, but it's really like the first half that matters the most, right? But I also bring in those deliberate, fun things in my life. So I love ballroom dance. So I take ballroom dance classes, and I hit, a goal that I wasn't even expecting to hit because I did that. One was I performed on the Morrison Center stage here in Idaho, which is our biggest stage. It's where the Broadway performers go to. And I performed in a community show, and they asked me to do a waltz because I had auditioned, and I did a waltz on stage with my partner, to these large audiences. And that wasn't even something that I accomplished when I was younger, when I was actually competing in ballroom dance. So that was incredible. The other goal I have, for instance, because I was a gymnast, was to keep my back flip until I'm 50. So I'm 44 right now, and I still want to maintain my round off back tuck. And, a lot of people think, no, there's no way. And like I said, they think you're getting to your 40s, you're getting old. Who says that? Why do we need to live like that? What do I want for my life? I know I can do that. I loved being able to play capoeira, do all these fun tricks and so forth. And I still do that as part of my morning routine. My HIIT exercise includes some really fun, capoeira tricks. It includes back handsprings. And I still do that as a mom of 6. So what I want to share is that I'm living proof that you can be your best self. You can create your life, just like Gina tells all the time in her podcast, which is life doesn't happen to you. The life of your dreams won't happen to you. You create it. You create it deliberately by the habits that you establish, by who you establish you want to be, and you do it every day. And, sometimes I miss a day. I'm certainly not perfect. And, 80% of the time, if you hit 80% of your days, then you're making more progress than most of the people in the world. And then on travel days, vacation days, I just, throw that out the window and I don't even worry about that. And for me, those are all number 10 days because I'm doing my best.
Yeah. Well, and that just goes to something I like to say the distinction between self-confidence and confidence is you can know something front and back. You can say, okay, I can take apart this computer and put it back together. And I could stand in front of a room and I could tell you exactly how to do that. That's confidence. But self-confidence is having all of these wonderful habits and routines and disciplines and saying to yourself, but you know what, today I'm good. Because guess what? You have that trust with yourself. You have that relationship with yourself where you know that, yeah, today's a day where I'm just going to be meh. And that's okay because tomorrow it'll be back to business as usual, right? That's a relationship. And you just said so many wonderful things. I'm going to skip and jump back to where you said that success was a scary part for you, because this is actually, I'm going to bring this to a smaller scale because not all of us are 8-figure founders. Okay. No. So I'm going to bring this down to a smaller, more relatable scale of what she's saying is, if you've gone to a women's event or a retreat or anything where you've gotten into a space, you're in this container and you are just being motivated and invigorated and energized, and you are getting all of these creative blood juices and all these things and you're just firing on all cylinders like, yes, 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 right? So you're getting all of these ideas of just like what you're sharing with us beautifully about your morning routine. And I'm like, yes, yeah, you're right. Yeah, any of those things, then you leave. And I call this retreat hangover. And not only I actually had it happen, and I defined it after this incredible retreat I attended a couple years ago in Austin with Cherie Hoeger and the Brim. And it was probably the first one that I'd ever done that was that intense and staying on site and all the things, right? And I got to the airport and was just crying. I was just sitting there waiting for my plane, just crying. And it wasn't a bad thing. I mean, yeah, I was exhausted from being on. All the things hit you at the same time. But there is also is it contracting that happens after you've just been like, like expanded to your bursting point. All of a sudden you hit this, oh, what does that mean? I can do all these things, but what does that look like now? Oh, that looks like I have to maybe give up TV. Oh, that looks like I have to wake up an hour earlier. That looks like that's going to be hard. Right? I'm canceling that noise. We've talked about this in here before. I'm like, why can't this work be exciting in itself? Why can't meeting the woman on the other side of your miracle morning after doing a year of your miracle morning, what about getting excited about meeting her? Like, oh, I cannot, like, imagine fangirling this woman in Chicago that was on the stage, and you're like fangirling so excited. Everybody's sitting forward waiting for everything to come out of her mouth. What if that's just you and a year from doing your miracle morning? Why can't you fangirl that version of yourself? So I think a lot of what we're talking about here is definitely in the language, and the spinning plates. That's mine. I love whoever said that, because man, I've been saying that since I started this thing. It absolutely goes from biting, eating the whole elephant to taking one bite. It's what needs your attention next? Let's just focus on that. Let's not get so overwhelmed. And then the last thing I want to come back to, well, actually, no, I'm sorry. I have two more things. I should have been better at interrupting you, but I was just so in it. I'm like, yes, I'm in this with you. You're so good. No, I was just, I forget. I feel like I'm just sitting here with my friends. So I'm just listening to this story. Like, I'm not a podcast host. I'm just listening to your story. So the next one is mom guilt. I think mom guilt is a myth. How you said that she said that mom home work life is a myth. Yeah, I think mom guilt is a myth as well. I think that if you do the work you're supposed to do, which means identifying what your values are, what your, let's go to essentialism, okay? Let's what your top 5 are. And just if any of you needed us to tell you again that is hands down one of those books that you buy, you don't just listen to it, you buy, and then you pick it up once a year and you reread it because you're in a different place. So now what's this book going to say? So there you go. That's essentialism. 100%. So mom guilt is once you've identified these things, okay, so if I say that I want to work as a mother, but I want to be a mother as well, well, you've identified that value. So when you go in and have those conversations with your boss and say, oh, you know what, I really have to leave. I have to take my son to a doctor's appointment, or I have to, they just called me from the school and they're sick or something like that. There's no guilt whatsoever attached to that because you have already defined that I am a mom, first and foremost. That is my highest value. So if you have a problem with that, dang. That means we can't work together. And in the opposite side of that is you explain to this boss when you get this job, listen, I will do my best for you. I really will. I will give you 100% of me, except when my kids need that bit of me first because they come before you. And that's how you find a workspace and an environment that helps you rise in who you are rather than one of my favorite things from the book is essentialism is if you don't prioritize, someone else will. So if you're not prioritizing your time, someone else will. If you're not prioritizing your values, someone else will. So that's how I feel about the mom guilt work life. You said it beautifully, but I just wanted to on top of that as well. And then the last is the music while you're working out versus podcasts and books. Okay, so let's all talk about for a minute when you're around someone that's not in values with you, that's not in integrity with your values. They're gossiping. They're talking bad about people. They're shaming people. They're just not, and it can be these tiny little things that you don't even notice. It doesn't have to be all of a sudden she's like, oh my gosh, Becky, look at her butt, right? It doesn't have to be this obvious thing. It can be something small and sneaky, but it's something that lands with you. And if you allow yourself to be around that over and over and over, it becomes a normalcy. It becomes your condition to that behavior. So it no longer affects you. It's like all of us here in Utah, when someone drops the F-bomb, you're like, right? Because it's not a normal thing for all of us. But then you go to England or somewhere and it's F, F, F. I mean, my second son's first word was the F word because it was just all over the place. And we're just sitting there driving like, just don't acknowledge it. Just don't acknowledge it. But because it's not shocking behavior. So if you are, and not that music is a bad thing. I'm not saying that. Music is wonderful, but music isn't a direction. Music keeps you here in this stagnant space. It's just good. It's like, I just found one of my old reels from a podcast and I'm like, yes, I nailed that. That was awesome. And it was when you can run on a treadmill and that's good. It's getting it done. It's getting the thing done. But you can also go outside and run outside. And then you're not only getting the thing done like you are, you're also getting the vitamin D that your body just so needs and loves. You're also grounding yourself into the floor, the nature, the ground, whatever, the dirt, the rocks, the concrete, the grass, whatever. You're getting all of these other wonderful things. So you go from just being good to excellent. That's the difference between music working out and a good book or a great podcast is what are you surrounding yourself with? A great book or a good podcast it's bringing you, it's calling you higher, right? It doesn't matter if you're
Mm-hmm.
actually listening, it's going in there. And it's these people that are calling themselves higher. So it's calling you higher. I'm going to give you the name of that book because she talks about this as well. But
And if I can interrupt you for a moment
yeah,
too, when you're
of
talking
course.
about, that's the difference, right? That's also the difference between work-life balance and work-life integration, or you can call it optimization.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that you talked about how you can say, okay, you're on a treadmill, you're doing the thing, you're burning the calories, right? But you're just maintaining stagnant. And work-life integration and optimization is all about looking at what you're already doing and saying, how can I optimize that to become my best self? How can I optimize that? So I'll give you some real-world examples. We're in meetings all the time. My husband's in meetings all the time. He wanted to lose weight and he wanted to be able to strength train, but he was having a difficult time finding the time, right? And so he bought a walking treadmill. He walks during every meeting now, and he started challenging himself to do push-ups between meetings. And at first it was just like, oh, I'm going to do 10 push-ups between meetings. That got to 20. That got to 40. This is the magic of tiny habits, the magic of, building habits like atomic habits, habit stacking,
Yep.
like James Clear says. And now he does like 200 push-ups in between meetings.
That's awesome.
And he's ripped. And I'm like, I like this. This is a nice benefit. I'm loving this, right? The other thing, another way you can look at this is my husband and I run our own business, right? When we are struggling with that childcare, right? When I needed to be in the office more and be in front of the team more, and I was still doing the primary caregiving of the children. And we were kind of switching off. And so I had children playing next to me, doing puzzles, trying to keep them busy while doing work. Well, that means that they're getting, negative attention. They're not getting my ultimate focus, and my work isn't getting my ultimate focus. Right. So that wasn't working. And to his credit, my husband said, well, what if we create an in-office preschool? We need this. The other working moms on our team need this. We have an 80% female team. And we're like, let's do that. So we established this in the first year of our business. So we've had this in-office preschool now that's free for all of our employees for 8 years. And it has been one of the most incredible benefits, certainly for us and our family. We love it. We have 2 amazing preschool teachers, not a daycare, it's preschool. They're learning. They're in a very positive environment. They have that one-on-one coaching. I would say even better than a daycare because it's a curated amount of kids. We have about 10 kids in there total, and it's not overrun in a daycare. And I'm able to see my kids during the day. I'm able to stop and be able to go for, diaper changes, for the potty training, for lunches and so forth while I still work. And I keep pointing this way because I'm here in our podcast room and the preschool is right over there. I dropped my 4-year-old off during that. And it's an incredible, I would say also opportunity for our team members. And it's a win-win because it provides great employee recruitment and retention, because not all companies provide this free in-office preschool. So we have incredibly loyal team members who utilize it. We have single moms who utilize it. We're providing this great benefit. And, you also said something that stopped me in my tracks too when you said, if you don't have the ability to create your own rules, right, as an entrepreneur like we did and created this preschool, but you're talking to your employer about needing to take time for your kids because you're first and foremost a mom. And you said, you get my best except when I have to be a mom, essentially. And I would challenge the accept and say, instead of accept, say, you get my best. And this is why I need to go be a mom, because my best is me at my personal best. And guess what? For your company, your biggest asset is your people. So I am your biggest asset, and I need to be able to be my best self, which is prioritizing my family. And because of that, then I can provide you with my best self when it comes to work. And so really, changing that language up and ensuring that we have this mentality that our best selves are the biggest asset to not only our employers, but also to our family. So when you apply that to your personal life, when you do those, self-care routines, and when you're taking care of yourself for your morning routine and making sure that you fill your cup up first, you need that to be able to provide what you need to for your family. So instead of shifting the mindset, because we are so service-oriented as women, and especially I'm in my 40s, so I'm in that sandwich generation where I'm taking care of, kids, I'm taking care of my aging parents, and I'm trying to take care of myself. Don't put yourself last. I'm like serving all the time. So this is not an ego thing, right? This is all about making sure that you can show up as your best self by filling your cup first.
This is optimization.
Yes.
It's just like what you said. It's with, if I have to go take care of my kids while I'm at work, if you're not going to let me, or I feel like I can't for some whatever reason, you're not going to have my full attention, because now we've all seen it in an employee. Now they're thinking about their child. Now they're worrying about their child. Now they have to figure out, well, who's going to go get the child? So now you've got them. You're not getting their most optimized level of attention for that. And so I definitely, I'm wondering, okay, so this is my bonus question. I'll let you go. And I'm dying, because I feel like if you would give us the honor, I really would love to have you come back, because there's so much we didn't even get to talk about as far as Saalt and everything you're doing in the world with that, and what's next and all these things. And especially working with your husband. I really wanted to get into that, because around here, that's a no. No. You do you. I'll do me. You do you. I'll do me. But
that's incredible. I don't have a hard stop, so I can continue.
I just want to, yeah, well, we can have another couple minutes. I just have to record a podcast next. But I want you to tell me, and I'm wondering if that what you shared with that is this answer, but what do you think women are tolerating still or accepting right now, whether it's in business, in motherhood, that you wish more of us would finally question? Is that the self-care, the mentality around that?
Oh, there's so many things. I think we tolerate established gender roles, the patriarchal structure. That's something that we questioned with our pro-family work culture. Before COVID, we already had a pro-family work culture where we were bringing kids onto Zooms. This was a normal part, and we established that as part of our identity as a company, because we said, hey, we need work to work for our lives, and that means working for our family, and we provide that permission. So I would say that we tolerate that too much. And then I would say tolerate the world's perspective of what success looks like for you, or what you should be doing as a woman, or what you should be doing in whatever communities you're with. When really, if you do that mental work, and again, going back to the book Essentialism, who do you want to be, or the Becoming Your Best Self Now, a great book by Dr. Benjamin Hardy, but what does that look like? Put it down and say, this is what I care about. I don't really care about these other things that the world cares about. I care about this. Like, I don't follow celebrities, right? TV is not my thing. And I don't follow sports so much. And people think, oh, you don't know about these things? I'm like, I have mental space for a certain number of things, and that's not one of them. But guess what I do? I do philanthropy. I change lives. I've donated 160,000 products in 60 countries to help keep girls in school. I care about girls' education. I remember that, right? I allow that into my mental space, and there's only so much I can hold. So it's doing that mental work first and deciding who you want to become. We can create that. Don't settle for what the world wants you to become. And like I said, I can't tell you how many times people have said, what? You're starting a business in this space, this taboo area, is that something you want to do? Or you're taking your children internationally to all these places, which of course you live and breathe, which is incredible. But why don't you just go with your husband? I'm like, we love traveling with our kids. Isn't that such a hassle? No, it's actually incredible.
Yep.
We love that. And so question all the status quos of your life. Look at what you're tolerating, who you're tolerating also, right? Those people who are those energy drainers instead of those energy givers. Look at your life and say, what brings me energy? What drains my energy? And bring more into your life that brings you energy. And the last thing that I'll say, and this is one of the best pieces of advice that I've gotten from a coaching program, is look at what you're putting off. So what do you put off? Like, oh, someday, this is on my bucket list. Someday I'll do this. Someday. We don't know how long our life on this earth is. What are those some days? For me, some of those some days were, traveling to different places around the globe. It was writing a book. It was, again, doing more ballroom dance, these types of goals, or it was doing good. And guess what? During this coaching program, they said, what are those someday things? What are those dreams that you're like, oh, I'll do that, when I'm older? And they said, they challenged us to bring it forward. How can you bring that forward? Even in a little bit, what can you do to bring that dream forward instead of having it be a someday? Well, let's see. I could actually start writing my book now. I'm in the middle of writing a book. In the thick of it with my life with 6 kids, and I'm doing it because I said, I'm going to bring that forward. What travel can you bring forward? Do you have to wait till later, till you're retired and you go, well, no, I want to travel with my family when I can enjoy them now. Okay, let's do one international trip a year. So we bring it forward by planning ahead. We literally plan years ahead. What are all the places we want to go to? And, when can we get there? And when can you fit it in? And, if you have a dream to be an entrepreneur, you have a dream to do good. Well, I was able to create a business, which we can get to if I come back on on that combined for-profit business with philanthropy. Two of the things that I love. I love the marketing aspect, I love the business, and I love the nonprofit aspect. And I'm able to combine that together as a B Corp with a social impact mission to help end global period poverty and help women and girls across the world. I was able to do that all in one, and you can do that with your business. All right, I know you have to go, so I will leave it there.
No, you're so good. I love that. That's so beautiful because actually when we were in South Africa, so it would have been 2025, I was pregnant with Even. And we went to South Africa with my husband's company, M42 Adventures, which is just basically trying to get people out doing things, right? No more saying, no more just listening to other people doing, we're going to do these adventures. And it's intimidating, right? So maybe if you go with people that have done it, have traveled the world, it's less intimidating. So we go over there. And my husband, with his big heart, of course, he wants to not only, some people were hunting, there was a hunting package, there was a safari package, but the whole of it was we had taken up, we had a bunch of donations that we wanted to take to these orphanages there. And so when we called them up to say, hey, we're going to go shopping. When we get there, we're going to go shopping with this. Like, I think it was $20,000. We're going to go shopping with this. What do you need? How can we best serve you? It was hygiene, feminine products. We don't need, and school supplies. They said that we don't need anything else. And it's so interesting because we also did take, of course, soccer balls, a whole bunch of deflated. We deflated them all, or they came deflated. We packed them in a suitcase and got them over because we're like, how do you get a bunch of soccer balls to South Africa? So anyway, we did think in terms like that, but that was really shocking to me. And that's not a shocking thing. That's a very normal thing in all these different countries. That's highest on their priority list. So for you to bring awareness to this is incredible. And I love that you're doing that. And I'm here if you ever need any support in any of it, if you ever need any help in any of it, I am happy to be there with you because I support it and I love everything you're doing. So thank you so much for being on here. And it sounds like I get to have you on when your book's done. So
I would love to be able to share.
Sounds like that's going to be a perfect opportunity to get back into everything that we didn't get to today.
So this has been an incredible conversation.
It really has. Thank you so much. Is there anything I left out that you would like to share to really move your mission or empower women or anything like that before we sign off?
You know, I tell female entrepreneurs all the time, you don't need an MBA to start a business. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need to have a strategic plan and be perfect. It really is just about your passion and your hustle and your grit and doing what you love. So don't let that stop you. Don't let the barriers stop you. We have such an ability to be able to create our lives to be the best lives they can possibly be. And let's not squander that amazing opportunity that, you know, our ancestors have given us, and this ability that we have, especially for U.S. citizens, to be able to really, truly live that American dream. And I think that I'm living proof for that. And just motivation and just encouragement. And the other thing is that if you don't know how to do it, there's incredible people like Gina who has her community, who is able to show you the ropes on how to do it. Or you can reach out to people like me. I'm open. I'm an open book. I love talking to other aspiring female entrepreneurs. And I love helping them because I know that the best way for especially women to progress is to see other women in leadership and to see other examples of women leading and aspiring and inspiring as well. And so, you know, reach out, make those connections, put yourself out there, you know, welcome that deliberate discomfort, put yourself out there and be a little uncomfortable, because you'll be surprised at how many people will want to connect with you and how many people are willing to help support you along the way.
I'm so glad you just brought that up because I do have it here in my notes and I totally flipped the page so I'm not over on that same page. But this woman, ladies, this woman puts it where her mouth is. Everything she's saying, there was this cute little company that came to you, right? And said, I need some help. I need some mentorship. And mentors are cheat codes. Mentors and books are cheat codes. If you want to do something, yeah, you can do it. It might take you 10 years. It's just like saying, I want to lose 30 pounds. Okay, well, do you want to lose 30 pounds in 1 year? Do you want to lose 30 pounds in 1 month? I mean, it just get your cheat codes. If it's 1 month, you better have a mentor, you better have a trainer, you better have, right? You better have those cheat codes. So that's what these are. But what you're saying is so profound to me because I am the hype girl. I have given myself this title, and anyone who knows me knows that this is an absolute truth. I am here for you. I will cheer you on. I have plenty of that to give. And I have I'm not going to go negative with this, but I have little patience with women who say that they are this and then they show you that they are not. So I just want to reiterate that you absolutely are. You had these meetings with this beautiful woman, and she is in Target now as well, right? Tell me the name of her company.
Yeah, Sadie B.
Sadie B.
Incredible company started by two sisters, and they were able to get to all Target stores or into Target stores. And she reached out and said, hey, what do you use? Use a broker? What do you do? And I'm like, they're having line reviews. Actually, I can put you in touch with my broker, and I can teach you, how to do this pitch. And let's get you in front of them for line reviews. And she was able to get it into the next rotation, which was incredible. But it really is. It's leaning on people who can show you the ropes. I love that you said that they're cheats, because that really is what it is. And this life is all about relationships, and progressing is all about who do you know, who do you connect with, and how can you move it forward. So put yourself out there. Don't be scared to share, and allow people to cheer you along, because especially as women, I think in our highest and best selves, we are the ultimate cheerleaders. And there's incredible people like Gina who would lead you along the way. And feel free to reach out to me. You can find us at Saalt Co. On Instagram and on all the socials. So Saalt Co. And then our website is saalt.com with 2 A's. And then you can also find us on Amazon and Target stores. We have our Teen Line and Walmart stores. Or you can connect with me at just cherie.hoeger on Instagram or else an email.
That's amazing. Thank you so, so much. I really enjoyed this. You have the best rest of your day.
Thank you, Gina, for this conversation.